Welcome back to the Furonis podcast. My name is Justin Kubek, and you might notice I don't have Rico with me today. It's my first show on my own, but we're gonna work through it. Before we get too far, though, I just want to thank everybody for being here, taking the time to check out the channel, watch this video. If you would, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really means a lot to the channel, and it really helps us kind of build things and move forward. As we know, we always call out for the 988 Lifeline. Whether you're facing mental health struggles, emotional distress, alcohol or drug use concerns, or just need someone to talk to, their caring counselors are here for you. You are not alone. Call, text, or chat anytime. For our event this week, we're featuring the NAMI Connection Support Group. This support group is for individuals 18 plus who believe they have a mental health condition or are living with any mental health diagnosis. It's the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, so we have one coming up, I believe, on the 24th. I'll put the date on the screen. It's from 6 to 7 p.m., and I believe it's on Grandview in Waukesha. More information will be down below in the description. And with me today, I have my friend, and he always sounds very fancy when I say it this way, but it is Stephen Delcuse Esquire.
Oui, oui.
Me and Steve met back in Parkside in 2011, and although life took us in very different directions, we still kind of stayed in touch over the years. It was,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of friends that have stayed in touch this long,
No, no.
um,
Me neither.
but and I know we talked about it earlier before we sat down to record this podcast, and I told you to text me what you had said, and you never did. So I'm going to need you to go over your professional background real quick because it is a laundry list.
Yeah, so where do I start? So born and raised here in southeastern Wisconsin. Um, Ended up graduating from West Bend West. Go Spartans. Then went down to UW Parkside. Was there for 4 years. Did some student government. Did some other clubs down there, and that's where I met you doing our fraternity Talk Kappa Epsilon.
Yeah.
Um, and after that, ended up graduating with a bachelor's degree in history. Um,
Want to hear a funny story about history real
oh yeah,
quick?
go for
I
it.
don't know if I ever told you about this. Uh, I was not the best student in high school. Homework was not my thing. I lucked out my junior year and they changed just the grading scale and my GPA drastically changed. But I failed the first semester of freshman US history twice. Not kidding. I can't make that up.
It This will get us off on a side tangent real quick, but yeah, no, the one of the things that they teach us in even bachelor's level, but then more specifically in the master's level and the doctoral level, is the history of how we teach history and how
Yeah.
that changes. And so that's again that's its own podcast. We're not going to go down that path, but yeah, I'm
Well,
the fact that you're having issues is probably has something to do with how you were taught, not necessarily the
no, you're giving me way too much credit. I didn't do a lick of homework. And
well,
the way,
okay, well then
yeah, if okay, we'll divulge real quick. While I was a junior in high school, they changed the grading scale so that homework is worth up to 10%. Most of my teachers made it worth nothing at all. And so they would have a trade-off. Like if you had more than 90% on your homework scores, you could retake a test if you did poorly or something like that.
Gotcha.
I was so confident in my test taking ability at the time, I just was like, cool, now my homework doesn't count against me. My GPA went from a 1.7. I graduated with a 3.96.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, grades aren't always a good indicator of their ability to pass a class. Anyway,
But going back, so graduated with history at Parkside, and some computer science courses there, and then ended up decided to join the Navy, see the world, do some nuclear engineering, and ended up getting stuck stateside for 6 years. uh,
fun.
my ship, USS Abraham Lincoln, when I first got to her, she could not float, and so me, along with about 3 to 5 thousand of my best buddies, it was our job to put it back together,
Okay.
send her out to sea, and about a couple months after I got out, she did a round world tour, and it was fantastic. So I got the engineering and the hard technical stuff from that, the physics. But then I decided that that's not actually what I want to do. So I ended up going because I am the kind of person I am. I went to law school
Hey,
and went to Boston and Suffolk Law. If you ever seen The Departed, of course, I started to get my Boston accent. If you see The Departed,
hmm
one of the main characters, he went to Suffolk Nights. I went to Suffolk Days. Um, but great school. One of the things that they do there is they're at the literally the forefront of legal innovative technology, which is basically how do you take um, well, when I say AI, I'm talking like very simple AI, like OCR, like taking a document from like PDF form
right.
to be able to search it and edit it.
The type of AI that we've had running our whole lives, but just didn't realize it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so how do you take that, or maybe some very basic form, create a form, and like, here, fill out, like, here's your name, type that in, and then use that to go and fill out a form, print it out at the end, and like make that work. Save so much time for somebody who has no idea how these forms work or anything like that, but they're able to use that and to go and help people who maybe don't have money to spend on an attorney,
Okay.
and really get an access to justice type program going for so many. Um, Again, so long story short is after I finished with law school, where I met my wife, um, end up passing the bar. So now I am an attorney. I'm just not your attorney, and
Yeah,
we have a
we will
we have a
always
different.
say, Rico and I have a habit of just pointing out, like, I'm not a professional in the mental health field, so none of this is health advice and with having a lawyer on set, none of this is legal advice.
No, I may talk about the law because go figure, it's my life and it's passion of mine. But yeah, no, I am an attorney. I'm not your attorney.
I like the way you put that.
Um, but yeah, so long story short is I met my wife at law school, um, right before COVID. We spent um, the lockdown together. We did not, as my uh, family sometimes likes to say, we did not maintain our 6 feet rule. And so we had our little daughter um, right at the end of COVID.
I'm sure there will be a COVID generation just like we had a boomer generation.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
there already is. They know it.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, so then after I passed the bar, I went and uh, found a couple of jobs doing insurance defense work. So if you car accidents, slip and falls, that type of stuff, I ended up defending on the civil side some of those people, companies, and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Dog bites, and again, that's out in Massachusetts, so not here in Wisconsin. But
Yeah.
had some fun with it. Another specialty I had was what's called SIU, which is the fraud department. I'm sure that if you want to go out there and look, just do a Google search fraud,
Mhm.
insurance fraud. You will find videos on videos of people who are like people who cut somebody off, slam on their brakes,
Oh yeah.
and then, oh, you didn't hit me? Okay, reverse and slam into you.
As a traveling sales rep that is driving on the road 8 to 10 hours a week, I have a dash cam for sure.
App highly recommend. And again, it makes my life easier. And those of us who practice that area of law, like, it makes our job a lot easier. It makes the insurance company's job a lot easier because you can't fake that.
Right.
I mean, maybe you can in the future with where digital technology is going, but that's a
Have you
completely
seen
different.
those AI videos where it's like a vlog taken in the wilderness and it's hosted by like a Yeti or or by like
Ah,
Bigfoot or something like that? They're getting pretty good, man.
they're but university, I think it was Michigan State. I think it was they did a study and they gave people 10 different videos, some of which were AI, some of which were normal, and uh, people were able only missed about 1 point something
Oh, yeah, I
of
mean,
those.
after you've seen enough of them, you can kind of tell most of the time.
Yep.
It's nice to know that there are companies rolling out AI detection,
Yeah.
and
Which
like
still aren't good.
live AI detection. I mean, it's better than not having AI detection.
That's
You
true.
know, I worry about my parents, you know, seeing a news report that isn't real and them panicking about it or something like that.
Yep.
You know, I know that's something that happens on a somewhat regular basis already.
Yep.
Um, but I don't know. It's something as long as we're aware of it, AI is a tool just like any other.
Yeah. And a tool that could be used for good
A tool just like any other.
and a tool that could be used for bad.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Um, but yeah, so that's so my and then a little bit of a news break is I actually just got a new job.
Oh,
Uh, Got to talk about legal innovative technology, and that's actually a brand new role that I'm going to be starting here next month.
well,
So
congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good to hear. I know we were talking the show ahead of time, and there were two main topics that you wanted to get into.
Sure.
So you don't have to go in the order I have here, but if you want to start us off.
So I mean, the thing that I always go back to, and this is you and I have kind of worked on because I also am on the blog side of the house.
Yeah,
And so from that perspective, what I've always tried to do is um, like look at like one of the reasons why I care about mental health the way that I do is because um, 22 give or take 18 to 22 veterans every single day
right.
commit suicide, and that is a scary number.
Yeah,
And that's just the veteran population. We're not even talking about the civilian population.
right.
And when we start talking about veterans, we also need to start thinking about like other first responders.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that entail? Police, firefighters,
EMTs,
nurses,
yeah.
EMTs, doctors, teachers,
Mm-hmm.
social workers. Like there are like so many different people who are on the front lines who deal with the most devastating impacts of the worst sides of
Yeah,
humanity. But we also see the best sides. But the way that our, our brains work
right.
is we focus on the negative, and so we so there's been a lot of push in the veteran community to try and focus on how do we if we can focus on the veteran population, then what we do there and what is successful there may be able to work in other areas, may be able to help other people. And so that's where, and again, being a veteran myself, having been exposed to the kinds of instances, like again, even just being stateside,
Right.
I've been through shit, excuse the language, where like it has caused mental issues for me.
I'm going to interject here real quick.
Sure.
And before we get too far into this, I do want to backtrack because I'm sure not everybody that listens to the podcast or watches the podcast also read the blog. So if you don't know, the other place you might know Steve is as the other author on the blog. He writes hashtag positively stressed. And we were just talking about his hiatus.
Yeah. Yeah, so that kind of goes into a lot of different things, including work. Again, um, my job that I still have right now
Yeah,
is an insurance litigation attorney. So I am in court. I am doing jury trials. I
right.
am. And just in the month of May, I had 2 jury trials.
I feel like you're living the life of Boston Legal, the TV.
Um, it can be. Um, Beautiful thing about my job is has been that I do 100% work from home.
Oh, yeah.
So I,
Apart from your time in court.
except for the time in court, which is the big caveat. Um, so like again, like one of my jury trials was in Superior Court, which is the for lack of a better term, for those of you who aren't necessarily aware, it's the big boy court.
Yeah,
Then most of what I do is in the district and Boston Municipal Court, which is kind of more the run of the mill,
yeah,
kind of lower stakes, still not low stakes,
right,
but lower stakes. And then there's always the small claims court, which is the you expect more people to kind of represent themselves. But again, if you have insurance, let the insurance company know,
right.
and that and I'll go and represent you
There you
if
go.
that's if I'm assigned like that. That's what you pay insurance for.
Right.
And again, I get to deal with those headaches so that you guys don't have to deal with those headaches.
Thank
Because
you. Yeah.
so again, we're talking about mental health, and like insurance has to be part of that conversation
Oh yeah.
because like again, like I deal like again, my wheelhouse is motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls, dog bites, property damage. Like that's my wheelhouse.
Right.
Now, if you're dealing with like medical malpractice, if you're dealing with construction defect, if you're dealing with trusts and estates, like any of that stuff, I don't do it.
Right.
If you're dealing with criminal stuff, I don't do it. I want, but you still need to have somebody who has specialty in that area,
Right.
and that's where the insurance policies come in.
Of course.
Um, and again, talk to somebody who like knows what they're talking about with that, who can sell you exactly what you need.
Not me.
Not
Definitely not
me.
me.
Um, Again, I deal with the other end of things. I don't deal with the sales side of
Right.
things. But again, it's and there again, we could have an entire conversation about the insurance like industry itself and kind of how that runs, but I think that's for a later date.
Yeah.
But just to say that insurance has a place in mental health
Oh yeah.
because paying for a little bit now will save you a ton of headache in the future
Hmm.
when you probably don't have the time, the capacity, or the mental energy to deal with
Well,
that.
and I mean, especially in the field of mental health, having insurance might be your key to actually getting a diagnosis. We've talked
Health
about,
insurance, absolutely.
yeah, we've talked about that a little bit on earlier episodes where, depending on what diagnosis you have, an experienced doctor might be able to tell, how good your insurance is simply because, if you have this particular diagnosis, that means you had this particular test done and there's only this list of places that do it and so on and so forth.
Right.
And there's a lot of variables that have to line up for that to happen for somebody.
Right. And again, just because the initial answer is no in some of those circumstances, sometimes if the answer is no, it means no.
Right.
Sometimes it means you haven't proven your case and you need to appeal it
Yeah.
or you don't have the correct permissions yet.
Right.
And so again, that's where you need to have somebody who knows how to read those policies, knows how, like can actually work their way through. And again, like there may be a lot of nuance in some of these policies, but they're in plain English.
Yeah.
And if you can find in plain English, you are covered for XYZ and you have XYZ, cite that, show the insurance company and say XYZ.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, all right, you proved your case. Sometimes they forget about that. Sometimes they like it's not that
Oh, it's
there
just
are what
yeah,
I should say is there are many companies out there who are not trying to screw people over.
yeah.
There are others who try and screw people over. If you're going for the big name auto insurance carriers, they're not trying to screw people over.
No.
At the end of the day, I've worked with enough of them to know like we we're not like they're not trying to screw people over. They're just there's a process. You need to prove everything, and you need to prove it to a certain level. And if you don't do that,
Right.
if you can't like if you can't prove it, I can't give you money for it.
Yeah.
Prove your case, I'll give you money for it. It's very simple in that regard.
You're talking to a guy that got a 0% fault in a parking lot accident, which I was told is unheard of. But yeah, yeah, it's pretty. Now the other guy, of course, didn't have insurance, but that's a whole
That's
different
a
story.
different issue.
Anyway, back on track a little bit. You were
Sure.
talking about your time as a veteran
Sure.
and how that relates to mental health.
But I mean the beauty of the conversation about mental health is that it impacts so many different aspects of life.
Right.
and and so like for me on the veteran side of house, like yeah, I care about kind of that big picture. I care about it from the standpoint of I'm the veteran population that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like I'm part of the legion, a local legion post,
Sure.
and I've got guys there who are Korean veterans, Vietnam veterans, and they never got the services that they needed
Yeah.
back then when they needed it. And they have, and because they've had to deal with it for so long, they don't trust the system right now to try and fix it, their mental health. Because again, if the mindset being, if I'm 80 years old, why am I trying to fix my mental health? Like, it's not going to work. It's not, I'm, can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right.
You can.
You can.
You absolutely can.
That's like, hold on, and
Sure.
that just reminded me of something. That's like the phrase you comparing apples to oranges.
Yep.
Why can't you compare apples to oranges? They are both fruits. You can most certainly compare those two things. Anyway,
Yeah,
good.
no, it's no, I'm right there with you. They're both fruits. Yeah, it's always easier to compare apples to apples, but like
No, I would say it's easier to compare two things that are drastically different than two things that are extremely similar.
yeah, see, this is where philosophy
Yeah,
I took one class in undergrad, and I'm like, I am done with it.
you read enough of my blog posts to know.
No, you do things in a very different way than my philosophy professor in undergrad. It's like he wanted to talk about like it, it was my head hurt
Okay.
every single time that I stepped into that classroom, and every time I stepped out of that classroom. It was just it wasn't my thing. And I think that that's the other thing that I would say about, even from the veteran standpoint, like again, from because veterans typically, um if you meet certain criteria, you get free care through the VA.
Well, actually, that was something that I wanted to ask you
Sure,
about.
go for it.
So, like, I know the way we've talked about mental health over, throughout history, even as far back as the 1400s, has changed drastically.
Drastically.
From you got ghosts in your blood and we're going to burn witches to actually figuring out how to help people. Um,
Yep,
or at least we think we're helping people. Anyway,
we hope.
you can only hope. But how does the military talk about mental health? Uh, I'd say both before, so like in your boot camp kind of days when you're first
Hmm.
getting into it before you've experienced the trauma, and then after you're out, what kind of services are there? You talked about the VA and things like that.
Sure. So I think the way that I describe it is, um, while you're in, you're not taught about mental health. At least not when I was in.
Okay.
Um, I had, and seeing this is where we start getting into, you want to talk about generational trauma, you start talking to veterans about what story, not just the stories that they've gone through,
Yeah.
but the stories that they've been told.
I have enough veteran friends to know that boot camp ain't what it used to be.
No, no, I mean, to take half a step back, they now allow recruits to have their cell phones with them,
Right.
and like on Sunday when they have downtime, you can call and text. Sorry, there's a couple
Yeah, you're good.
bugs. Um,
Did
you
you
can.
need to get that candle going? We could.
No, I think
It's up to you.
we're good for right now. But like they have like on Sunday when it's just got some downtime, like you got your phone and you can go text and call and everybody everything. Even back in 2012, none of that. Um, but yeah, so boot camp has changed a significant amount.
Right.
Um, but I mean, again, like part of what boot camp does for you is it indoctrinates you into the way the military does things.
Yeah.
And even when the worst of the worst is happening, you still have to do the job,
Embrace the suck.
embrace the suck. Um, and like one of the things that I like my 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 second RDC, my boot camp drill instructor, um, was CS1 Horsky,
Okay.
and I will always remember that man. Um, for those of you who remember 9/11 and how traumatic that was for the civilian population, most of us forget that there was actually the embassy bombings in Africa. There was the USS Cole, and there was the embassy bombings in Africa, and there was the USS Cole, all of which had been done by Al Qaeda before 9/11. And the USS Cole, some couple of guys drove a fishing boat filled with explosives and drove it straight into the side of the ship and exploded. Um, and it exploded right in one of the mess decks,
Mhm.
Chief's mess. Now, again, from a Navy perspective, the Chiefs are the workhorses of the Navy.
Yeah.
You've got your officers who are your managers, your administrators, your paper pushers to a certain extent. Most people think they're the ones who are leading it. No, it's your NCO. It's your senior NCOs. In the Navy, those are your chiefs. Those are
Hmm.
your technical specialists. They are the guys who are down on the work on the uh, deck plates every single day, making sure the work is done, making sure it's done right. And on the USS Cole, it was the chief's mess that was hit. And so, and CS2, again, culinary specialist. He was a cook. He was a
Yeah.
chef. And so when you hit the mess, you're also hitting all where the cooks are.
Right.
So he lost a lot of buddies that day, and his job was to help everybody else save the ship after he lost all of his friends.
Yeah.
Losing the Chiefs. Can't go forwards, can't go backwards through the ship. You got to go up and around and do a million different things. And you have to be on knife's edge
Hmm.
to know exactly what you have to do in all of those situations. And it sucks being at that knife's edge.
Yeah.
Because even as late as 2012, when I joined, like we were still on knife's edge.
Well, and that's the type of stuff that I mean, I don't want to pretend like I understand because as from a civilian perspective, I'm self-aware enough to know that it's nothing what I could imagine.
Yeah.
Um, so just to put that in perspective, yeah, if you haven't been in it, you really don't know what Steve is talking about right now.
No, and again, like I fully admit, I the worst I saw were drills.
Hmm.
We drilled and we drilled and we drilled. Um, and so we like again, I worst case scenario, for a nuclear reactor. I trained on that
Yeah.
time and again until I got it right.
Oh, you don't want to mess that up.
Nope.
That's
Um,
the sort of mistake you only make once.
no, and again, I won't get it. There are certain things I can talk about that
Oh, of
stuff, and there
course.
are certain things that I can't. But needless to say, that there are some of the things that we have in that program
Hmm.
are really, really scary.
Yeah.
And it's not from a if you let me phrase it this way. If you watch the HBO miniseries Chernobyl, you understand what I'm talking about.
Right.
Um, again, we have different ways of doing things. We have a different style of reactor in the U.S. Navy, which makes it more safe than Chernobyl and all that stuff. So it's I have full faith in the nuclear navy to
Yeah.
be successful and to be safe,
I mean, isn't
but it's still scary.
nuclear power one of the fastest growing sectors of the power industry worldwide, as the
Um,
coal industry has been shrinking?
well, I've been focused on the U.S.
I suppose. Yeah,
industry.
that's a whole.
That's a different, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
But
um,
but but again, all of that to say is that again, if you're trained on the worst case scenario time and time again for 6+ years,
yeah,
even if you've done is training, like you still go through all of those different processes in your head.
right,
Now again, that's just stateside. That's not people who have been deployed.
of
That's not the
course,
Marines. That's not the Army who've been deployed,
right,
who've actually been in firefights, who have actually been like exposed to the IEDs,
yeah.
who have had to all of that all of that stuff. Those guys have it had it a million times worse than I did.
Oh, I'm sure.
So,
I mean, it's like the way that I talk about my chemotherapy and the cancer treatment that I went through. Not that it was easy or a good time, but it was like I had cancer with training wheels. Because in comparison to some of the other treatments that I heard about and witnessed along the way, what I went through was not that bad.
yeah.
Um, you were talking about training in the military.
Yeah.
What kind of things, like, I know you said they don't really talk about, or at least in your experience up until 2012 or so,
Yeah.
um, they weren't really discussing mental health, but maybe they were talking about it a different way. Did they talk about like what to do when you're in that knife's edge moment and you're on that panic attack borderline and how to kind of choose that fight or flight response or
No, because
any of that?
especially not um in my program, because if you had to seek treatment,
Yeah,
you would lose your security clearance.
gotcha.
You would lose your job because if you don't have your security clearance, you can't
Right.
work on nuclear reactors, and you'd get drummed out of the Navy.
Okay.
So there was no option.
Yeah, you just didn't do that.
You just didn't do it. And it got to the point where I know we lost one person. I think we might have lost another um, during just the training pipeline. 2-year training pipeline, and we
Yeah.
lost people. Um, again, because of the stress. Again, you're dealing with the stress of that,
Oh, is
of the.
that why you write about stress every week?
I have no stress. I have no stress whatsoever. If you can't see it on me, you can't hear it in my voice.
Oh
I mean,
man.
so yeah, I mean, again, I have found very specific ways that I'm able to handle it. It's not always a positive way to deal with it, but it is a way to deal with it. Um, again, if uh, you basically become a high functioning um, s- stressed magnet,
Yeah.
and it's
I mean, I'm sure it's not
normal.
the
It's normal.
I'm sure it's not the proper term for it anymore, but like high functioning anxiety.
Yeah,
Um, I, yeah, I get it. I mean, I've been on anti-anxiety meds before. I'm not gonna lie about that.
I have
Um,
been too.
yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, it's takes more strength to admit you need help than to bear on without help, I think.
Absolutely, and
Uh,
that's and that's where the VA has done a lot is for before the most recent election. They have been doing wave after wave of fantastic work trying to figure out what is going on in the communities, what is working, what is not working.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of engagement between the VA and gaming organizations, VA and uh, the traditional veteran service organizations, um, therapy dogs, therapy animals, um, camping trips, uh, kind of recreational
Yeah.
stuff, trying to get people like out. Because what they have found is that the more connected a person is within their community, the less likely they are to to take those planning steps, to take those worst case steps.
Right.
Um, and part of that is so what they've been trying to so what the VA has been trying to do, and kind of from my perspective, mental health counseling at large, is how do we break down those barriers to have those like one-on-one conversations? Is it having group setting sessions? Is it having kind of event oriented? Like,
Right.
I'm not going to talk like I'm brand new to the area. I'm not going to just come up to the American Legion post and I'm going to say I have mental health issues.
I
Let's be real, that's not ever going to happen. Or if
mean,
it does, it's going to be one in a million.
yeah.
Um, but really, what they have found is that if you have particularly guys, if you give them a task to work on,
Hmm.
fix a car, play a video game, do something, and then from there you start building the relationship. Hey, how's the family? How's the wife? How's the kids? How's work?
Right.
You start to break down those barriers a little by little until you finally have a relationship to be able to say, "Hey, how are you doing? You doing
Yeah.
okay?"
Making it okay to ask if you're okay. It's not okay sometimes, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
I think I said that
Sometimes
right.
it is okay to not be okay.
Oh, most certainly. I think we've said that on the show before at least once. That's kind of the whole premise of the show is, you know, we're, we're just guys going through life and talking about ways that you can go through life,
Yeah.
you know?
And then which brings me back to my next piece, which is like, yeah, like being of being a veteran is important to me and kind of where I see myself, um, kind of being in the community, but then it also comes back to home and being a husband and a father is important to me because I didn't have my father was not never in the picture for me.
Right.
My grandfather was the man who raised me.
Gotcha.
And my mother, my grandmother, and my grandfather were the ones who raised me. And in like I'm currently going through losing my grandfather.
Right.
And it sucks.
Oh, it's tough when he's not your father figure. I can imagine it's tough when he is.
Um and I mean again, I he had he's had heart trouble my entire life.
Hmm.
He had surgery 40 years ago and I was never supposed to.
It's been a long fight.
I'm 35 years old. He wasn't supposed to be alive when I was born.
Right.
So I've had 35 years of him that I was never supposed to have.
Yeah.
And I know that I am blessed
Yeah, that's a
every
pretty good
single
way to
day.
look at it. Absolutely.
It doesn't make it any
Oh,
easier.
no. No. Uh, and this is a topic that I've talked about with another friend of mine that's dealing with some end of life care. And because we were talking about that idea. Um, and I brought up the fact that, like, you know, every time a person makes it to the next stage in life, whether it's going from a newborn infant to being a toddler, from being a toddler to being like a true kid, from being a kid to that preteen, and so on and so forth. You're happy for them every step along the way.
Yeah.
And then you get to that last step, and people aren't happy for you anymore.
No.
And I think if we reframe the way we're looking at it, maybe reframe the way we're talking about it, it might be easier to be happy for somebody that's going through that process.
No, and like I know my grandfather is he misses my grandma. And it was hard missing my grandma.
Yeah,
And again, because I'm out in Massachusetts and not here in Wisconsin, like it's that much harder.
yeah.
Um, but it, it's I know that he's going to be in a better place because of it. His
Yeah,
quality of life is is certainly not what it used to be. And he's ready.
and there's nothing
And
wrong
it
with that.
and it's hard
Yeah.
because I'm not ready.
Well, on that
Which is
end of
what
it, nobody's ever ready, I don't
no,
think.
it yeah. So it's hard. And again, this is where we talk about your 7 stages of grief.
Right.
I'm still in denial. Still got a little bit of anger. Um, but I'm working my way through
Yeah, that's
it.
all you can do.
Um, but it all but again, going back to so I'm my grandfather was such a pivotal person for me in raising me that I have always wanted to make sure that I could do that for my children. And my daughter is, I love her to death,
This
but she is so precocious.
is going to be on YouTube a long time.
Well, let me phrase it this way. She, my family has this board game called Labyrinth.
Okay.
It's for kids who are 6 or 7 years old plus. My daughter decided that she wanted to play this game.
And how old is your daughter again?
4.
Okay.
And so not only and this is the first this week is the first time that she's ever seen this game, first time she's ever played this game. She beat me. A 4-year-old not understanding this game beat me, a 35-year-old.
I mean, I know you're a smart guy, man, but that's rough.
And this is just one tiny example.
Yeah,
Like at 2.5, 3 years old, she could name all 50 states.
that's
She
awesome.
could point to all 50 states and tell me which ones they are.
Yeah.
She is so advanced and I love her every single day for it. But I also get so frustrated with her because she knows exactly what she's doing and she knows that she knows. And it's like, I don't do a good enough job telling her, oh, yeah, no, this is normal. No, because you want to encourage it.
Right.
And it's weird.
That's a fine line to walk.
And so yeah, so she pushes me, she challenges me in all of the best ways and all of the worst ways. And it's the most wonderful challenge I've had, but that doesn't make it any easier.
Right.
Again, this is why I part of the reason why I call my blog Positively Stressed, because again, dealing with a very precocious, highly intelligent 4-year-old is stressful.
Oh yeah.
But you flip it, that's a very positive stress.
Yeah, it's kind of a good problem.
It's a very good problem.
Right.
Um, and so I know that I am very lucky in a lot of different ways because I am blessed with a daughter. I am blessed with my wife. I'm blessed with an amazing career. I'm blessed with my education and my work background. But that doesn't make anything easier.
Right.
there there's Are you familiar with Dave Ramsey?
I've heard the name.
He's a financial
Yep.
coach,
Yeah.
and his whole thing is when you have a large amount of money, it is your responsibility. It's not a gift. It's not a benefit. It is a duty to do something with that. And so I know that I have been blessed in certain ways, and it is my duty. I feel it is my duty to give back
I feel
in
like
certain
that's
ways.
like what the aristocrat class used to be. You know?
Should have been.
Yeah.
Again, that's
Yeah,
another
that's
one.
the. And speaking of which, because we are getting close on time,
Sure.
I'm just gonna do a couple more
Sure,
questions.
absolutely.
So on the topic of mental health as a father,
Yeah.
something that's always boggled my mind, uh, not being a father, is how do you make time for yourself? Right. It might
I
be a foreign concept. I might not know what I'm asking here, but like, I'm sure there have been times, at least one, in the last 4 years.
um yeah, the way that I typically do it is um I put everybody to bed,
Okay.
and then I have however long, like for example, if I put I our particular parenting style puts Claire to bed at like 9 o'clock at night. Some people want earlier, some people want later. 9 o'clock ends up being right about when we as a family just start putting everybody to bed. Um, and so what I do is I put everybody to bed, and then I have between 9 and whenever I decide to go to bed,
Okay.
and that's my time.
Hey, I mean,
Generally speaking, I end up finishing my work for the day.
that's fair. You know, in my shoes, like I said, I'm not a father, but I do work full time, and I have a business that I run that also involves writing my blog and shooting this podcast and doing all the
Yeah.
video editing. I'm a one-man show, so I mean, I get it. I have to schedule my fun. I have to schedule my relaxing time.
Hmm.
And yeah, sometimes that's okay. We worked all day, and now it's 9, 10 o'clock, and you have until whenever you fall asleep.
Yeah, and for me, it's I find that my fun time is very scattered, because there's always the honey to-do list.
Hmm.
Plus there's the
Oh, the never-ending everything.
daddy, I need a bottle of milk. Daddy, I need my stuffy. Where's my shoes? Where's my
You're gonna
sock?
give them PTSD. No, stop.
So there's always the constant thing, and so trying to find some time is sometimes difficult.
Right.
Um, you gotta find it somehow. But for me, based off of kind of, again, this is where I go back to, like, for me, the veteran, my time in the Navy, um, we didn't necessarily have downtime,
Mhm.
uh, or a significant amount of downtime on board the ship when we were underway, because you had about 6 to 8 hours of watch, slept for another 6 to 8 hours, had to eat somewhere in there, and then you were on watch.
All right.
So it's there wasn't a lot of downtime, but if when you were able to find it, you did it.
Right.
And sometimes the time that you have to yourself is in that half an hour as you're falling asleep. So for me, I find one of those, like, I like comedies as I fall asleep.
Okay.
I'm weird like that.
See,
So like for me,
that would distract me too much.
but see, it's like for me, like I used to do Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and then and nowadays I've gotten to
Oh,
Star Trek Lower Decks.
you mean like sitcoms? I was thinking like stand up.
Oh, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
I would be too
No.
distracted to fall asleep to stand up.
Also used to be Airplane. I don't know what it is about these
Okay.
shows, but there are certain ones that just, like, I put it on, it's happy. Like, I can't be stressed about it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna worry about it. Everything's gonna be
It's good
fine in the
background
end.
noise.
It's great background noise, and I just go to bed.
Right.
I fall asleep before the end of the first episode. So, yeah,
Alrighty.
so that's my
our last question I want to wrap up with.
Sure.
Rico and I started this. Well, we started this after our episode with Bill, and it's something that I'd like to keep going. So I want to ask you, what is your favorite kind of dinosaur? The reason why we asked this question is we realize that, like, when you're a kid, people ask you questions just to get you talking or thinking. I'm sure you didn't have as much of an issue with your daughter doing that. Um, but for some kids, it can be a real struggle to get them to kind of come out of their shell a little bit.
Yeah.
And finding an interest, like what kind of dinosaurs do you like, is a good kind of icebreaker for that. But as you grow up, you start to realize that people were only asking you those questions because they wanted you to talk. And I think that it's important to know what each other's favorite type of dinosaur is. Like, I love the Triceratops
Mm,
and the Pentaceratops.
okay.
Um,
I don't know the name
that's
of
okay.
mine.
You can
Um,
describe it. I'll put a picture on screen. I'll figure out the name.
if you've ever have you seen the kid show Jurassic Park Camp Cretaceous?
Can't say I have.
Bumpy.
Bumpy from Camp Cretaceous. Hold on. I'm just gonna. Oh, my phone's a camera right now. I can't do that. That's okay. We'll write it down,
It,
and um,
it's
I'll put a
basically
picture on
i-
screen.
i- think uh think Ankylosaurus, but without the spikes.
Okay. Does he still got the club tail?
Uh, mm, kind of.
Okay.
And then he's normally they've got two bumps on their head, um, but Bumpy himself, herself actually, because she laid an egg, um, and also Jurassic Park because they're all females, um, only has like one bump.
Oh, all right.
But yeah,
Bumpy from
I,
Cretaceous
I,
or from Camp Cretaceous.
the other thing, kind of going back to the fatherhood thing, find things that you love that are also age appropriate.
Yeah.
So like for me, Bluey,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't like Peppa, is a nah. Coco Melon, nah. But I like Bluey
Mm-hmm.
and I like Camp Cretaceous. Both of these things are generally age appropriate for kids, for young kids, and especially Bluey. Um, and like again, it's something that I can watch with her
Yeah.
and are relatively age appropriate, and she's gonna like them because they're for her. But then they also have like some adult
Right.
style
I feel like
messages.
Pokemon covers that gap really well too. Yeah.
Absolutely. How to Train Your Dragon.
Right.
Um,
Ooh, new
fine.
movie coming out soon. Yeah. Or already out. Already out.
Already. Yeah,
Maybe something. It's close. Maybe
it's
by the
close.
time I get this posted.
Um, but yeah, so find those things where like again, Pixar is great at this because they have like some adult things that just go straight over the kids' heads.
Right.
But because again, they know that the
Oh, they know
adults are
their
going to be there.
audience. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So just
Well,
find those things, and
we're
you'll be a little bit happier.
we're clearly good at talking because we didn't even make it through probably half of what I had here. So I think we're probably going to need to do another episode at some point in time. You'll have to come back out to Wisconsin, or maybe I'll come out to Boston and meet or visit you there.
Yeah, you can, as they say, ship up to Boston. Ayo.
But isn't it technically south of here?
East.
Well, you're right. I know it's east, but like,
No, it's
is it pretty parallel?
fairly
Oh,
parallel.
okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's 16 to 18 hours depending on.
Oh yeah, I mean I've driven to New Jersey from Wisconsin. That's a 19 and a half hour drive.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The best.
the family road trips. That's good time.
Yeah, no. The easiest way is go down to Chicago, and then hit 90 all the way.
Oh yeah. Well, with that said, thank you for taking the time to be here. If you made it this far into the video, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have any ideas for future episodes. And if you didn't know, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're working on TikTok, but we always have the website too. Till next time, thank you.